Hello friends, this is Akulmach live and I am Chandrakant. Today we want to discuss the subtle difference between personal branding and the corporate branding. What is the difference between the two, how these two are complementary, and which comes first, which comes second, and all of that. But the importance of having a personal branding is so vital for your general day-to-day life, also convincing your audience, and also be successful in life. So I think that is a very crucial aspect of the branding process. To discuss this very important subject, I will be joined by a special guest who is joining us from UK. Before we start our discussion, I would like to tell you that there is a QR code on display on the screen. This QR code will be displayed throughout the length of the video. And this is a very user-friendly method of getting connected with us. All you have to do is take your mobile phone camera, point towards this QR code, and you will be instantly connected with us. So friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be taking a short break and will be joining back along with my guest. Welcome back, friends, and today we want to discuss about the subtle differences between personal branding and corporate branding. And to have this discussion, I have been joined by my good friend from UK, Mr. Mike Bradley, who is also the group CSO of Scale Up Arena. Mike, welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Chandra, and trust you're well since we last spoke, and look forward to our discussion today.
Absolutely, we are all fine, and now situation looks better in India, and until the third wave hits us. So till the time we are enjoying ourselves, I think we have free time for next couple of months. But I think today's subject is very, very important and is most relevant in today's time. That is, how do you build your personal branding, and what is the basic difference between corporate branding and personal branding? So Mike, what is your opinion on this?
Well, you see, it's interesting. I think there's a balance to be struck between the two, and I think I'm a big believer in personification. So I believe that not only do we each have our own personal brand, and we are also part of an environment that we share our values, and hopefully we share the vision, etc. But also within a corporate space, I believe we're also part of the corporate brand, and therefore we have to balance our personal with our corporate branding, and there's an impact and an overlap between the two. So when your personal branding, I would suggest, is made up of the values and the objectives and the vision that you have for yourself. And just about every corporate I've ever known also has their own mission statement, vision statement, their raison d'etre, their approach to doing business. And I think the same happens to each of us individually. Now, ideally, the two overlap. Inevitably, there are going to be differences, but you're going to fit in better in an environment where your personal brand and the corporate brand is aligned, pretty much in sync. Okay, because for example, if you're a person who believes in integrity, and then you go to work for a loan shark company, you're probably going to have a bit of a problem. So that's what I mean, that there's a relationship between the two. But I think there's a lot of you see a lot of emphasis these days on personal branding. I'm not sure that you can be taught personal branding. I think that those are things that are inherently part of you, what makes you the person you are. What do you think? Do you agree?
Mike, I think in my opinion, what really happens is that your personal branding is something which will take you ahead in life. will get you employment, will get you conversion of your pursuits. All that depends on your personal branding, and it gets I mean, you need to really think about it as an individual. People need to really think about how they are building their brand. Sometimes a person walks into the room and every head turned towards that person. That person could be a man or a woman, but they bring so much personality with them, and that is how the branding is built. They look very smart, they talk, they walk very smartly. So I think it's not only the content but also the brand which has to be thought about by
image.
building a
the image, the style, the level of professionalism, the whole package. I think that's right. I think it's interesting though, because I think there's also within a one-to-one situation, I think it's very much personal. There's a personal versus the commercial branding balance. And I think in a one-to-one, it's all about 80% personal, because you've got time to build up the relationship. We understand each other. We talk about subjects in a relatively safe, trusted environment, because we're doing it one-to-one. If you're doing it in a one-to-many, it's, for example, if you were presenting to a board, it would be a huge mistake, in my opinion, to spend 80% of your time talking about you and 20% of your time talking about your commercial proposition. So I think I think the mix of personal to commercial needs to change depending on who your audience is and how many people are in the audience. If you've got to convince 500 people about something, yes, you've got to be yourself. Yes, you've got to demonstrate a bit of personal, but more than anything else, they're going to want to know that you know what you're talking about. They're going to want to know that you can put your message across plainly, that you can build empathy, and that maybe is done through personal, a bit of humor or a story or a personal inflection that demonstrates that you're a human being and not just some robot. Because that's very important. And I think there's also, not only is there a difference between the two within a one-to-one and one-to-many situation, and whether it's a personal or context or a business context or a charity context, all of which has a different expectation in that balance. But I think there's also very much a difference between the different size of organization. So in the scale-up environment and growth company environments, SMEs, SMBs, if you're American, in that environment, it's very much to the advantage of the small business, because they've got a better way of actually projecting their personal and their commercial brand through the team than a multinational. So without mentioning a multinational name for obvious reasons, if you're a multinational telecom brand, you would say, we're very interested in customer service. And they'll send out their surveys and they'll ask you to score after you've been on the phone. How much would you give us out of 5? And would you recommend us to a friend, and blah, blah, blah. But actually, reality is, are they really interested in you as a customer? As a multinational? So at the top, they say they're interested, but actually, do you get full satisfaction as a customer through their service level? And I would suggest that in multinationals, it's very, very rare that we humble customers walk out of the call or the meeting or the face-to-face or whatever it is thinking, wow, that was such a great experience. It's like Did they manage to do my fix? Well, maybe, but I got the impression they were giving me a textual reply. I could have said, they just give the standard response. They don't really understand my situation. They don't really care about my situation. All they care about is getting me off the call as quickly as possible with a booking for an engineer so that they can hit their call stats every day. Whereas I think in an SMB environment, an SME, small business environment, there is a real opportunity for the leaders' values and the corporate branding, the commercial branding values to be put across by all the team. So, if you phone into a small business, into an SME, there is the opportunity for even the receptionist to give you a feeling for what the values are, the personal branding values and mission is of that organization. So I think there's very much a great opportunity here. And I think this is where the differential is going to be in the future. There's going to be a chasm between the multinational, we just want to take your order and we don't really care about you, and the SME who is thinking, actually, I need to retain and grow my customers. I need to move into India and I want to build relationships with a different culture and explain to them how and why they should be utilizing this new innovation and how that can benefit that society, that organization. And I think there's a very massive difference between the SMB sector and the multinational sector.
Well, Mike, I think it's a great start for our discussion, and I also have some opinion on this. And my opinion is like this: when multinationals are dealing with, doing business, the chances are that they would be dealing with another multinational. I mean, if it is like you mentioned, telecom, then the biggest business they have is interoperability. So that means the other side of the pond will be another multinational. And if there are three telecom operators trying to get interoperability into, say, United States from India, let's say, for example, then not all of them will get that contract from the telecom based in United States, because if there are three guys, only one will get. And I think in that situation, when there are three salespeople, three leaders trying to go and sell their own brand into a fourth brand and say that, hey, I'm the best, you should tie up with me. I think in that situation, the personal branding plays a bigger role than the branding of the telecom operator or the corporate branding. What is your opinion of this situation that I just explained?
I think it's important that the individuals doing the discussion project the right level of interest and level of support, because ultimately, even in multinationals, it's going to come down to people. But I do believe that, and that's probably why account managers change sometimes, because, and other than, oh, well, we got to rejig the sales team, so we're going to give you these accounts and forget that all the other ones you used to look after. I think that can be overlooked. I still think, unfortunately, in multinationals, it is not, the personal influence is not looked on quite so much as the political and the commercial objective. I think it's under optimized in that environment. As you know, I'm a partnering person. So I've worked with SMEs in partnering and I've worked with multinationals in partnering. And the difference is, if you think of a bidding process, when a multinational is looking to do a contract, whether it's selling to a public sector or whatever, there will be an RFP. The RFP is a data collection tick box exercise. Okay, so before you even get through the door, it's not going to be about personal branding. It's going to be about do you tick all these boxes? If you don't tick all these boxes, we don't care if you are the best, most friendly, best serviceability company on the planet, but if you can't tick that box, we will not take the conversation further. However, I think once you're through that point, once you're getting into the presentation, you're getting to the dotting the I's and crossing the T's of the process and the execution of the partnership, at that point, yes, the personal element plays a part. Because at that point, it's about, well, can I rely on this person? Are they able to respond? Do they respond in a way that recognizes my interest in the situation? But again, I think it has to be a win. It's a glib statement, but it's got to be a win-win, and that means that both parties have got to see each other in an equally respectful light. They've got to see that they are on a matched basis. So if one thinks that, oh well, I'm the biggest in the US, and you guys are coming running to me from India, and you know what, we're going to bully our way into the contract. We want to knock down your pricing to such a crazy level that is unsustainable. It's a short-term position. It's not a long-lasting relationship you're trying to build. So I think within a multinational environment, yeah, ultimately personal does play a part, but once again, it still comes back to the commercials. However, when you're working with clients within a multinational, then I think it also becomes very personal. Because once again, it's an individual working on a client account, okay, just in the same way as for an SME, hopefully each prospect or client is of key importance, and that is recognized throughout the organization. I think when you come down into a multinational, down to the client level, there again needs to be a very tight relationship between the commercial confidence that is delivered and the personal confidence you have in that contact deal with your client. So there is a trust element, there is a confidence element. And yes, that does come down to personal and commercial, but that only comes over time. I don't think it's something that just happens quickly and easily. I think it means that all parties need to demonstrate that they have an understanding of the interests of the other party. It's not just got to be about me. It's what is the element of interaction and win-win, a meeting of heads between parties that have a joint objective, a joint venture to make things successful.
Mike, I think many leaders, when they discuss things, how the deals are cracked, etc., and whenever they are meeting, one of the things that most of the leaders say that, hey, most of the deals are cracked in the pub outside the client location. So, I just want to ask you on this, about this, because I think this is a very popular statement that most of the deals are actually not cracked in the office, but outside in a pub, in an informal environment. What role personal branding plays in such situations?
Well, I think it's absolutely crucial, and I think you're right, because and again, it goes back to that balance we talked about at the beginning, I think, in one-to-one versus one-to-many. When you're in the office, in the formal pitch, in the formal boardroom, it's very unlikely that you're going to get to the personal element to say, do I trust this person? Do I have confidence in this person? Do they know what they're talking about? Do they see the world through my eyes? Do they understand my challenge here, my opportunity here? That's very difficult to convey in a one-to-many meeting. So in the one-to-many meeting, in the formal setting, it's the tick box exercise. However, when you meet somebody outside, you go for lunch, or you have assuming it's not deemed to be, oh, well, a lunch is a bribe, of course, which sometimes is interpreted that way. But when you meet somebody on a social level, that's on a one-to-one or maybe with a couple of individuals, that's the point at which you really get to know the person. And you can say, well, actually, yeah, I do like the way they live their values. They live the company values, but they also have personal integrity. They have professionalism. They're positive. They're persuasive. I can work with this person, and that's when the human interaction piece works. Such as, even with ourselves, in this sort of case, we're a bit more formal. But when you switch the microphone off, then we start to talk about personal stuff. We start to understand each other and where we're coming from and what our background is. And everybody's got a different journey. Because of that, we'll have differences of opinion. It's not that either of us are wrong. It's just that based on our historical experience and our learning and our values and our culture, maybe, we have a different angle. And that, I think, is the benefit of, and what I love about working internationally, is actually it is that dimension of internationalization that opens your mind to see things in a different way, which ultimately gives us ideas, to lets us ideate, incubate, and implement new ideas. So I think both are vital. The one-to-many pitch, the 80-20 between commercial and personal, and the informal, get to know you, get to know the team, can we work together? Oh, what did you do in the past? Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. Oh, what do you do for sport? That's when you get to understand people.
Actually, you gave us a lot of ideas today, and also the importance of building your own brand, because I think it's very important to build your own brand. So that there is a rub-off effect when you meet people formally or informally. I think there is a lot of learning in today's discussion, Mike. So, and it's a very vast subject. It can, as you mentioned, that it takes time to build your brand. It cannot be over in just one day. And if you take these logical steps, your brand will be built. It takes time to build your personal brand. So I think we can end our discussion today at this point. Any of the viewers want any help from Mike and want to reach out to Mike for further advices, they can reach out to Mike directly, or they can reach out to us. We will have this bridge enabled. Mike, thank you so much for joining this discussion, and we'll catch up in the next show. And I'd like to say goodbye for today.
Yeah, goodbye to you too, Chandra. It's been a pleasure as always.